this is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, a little after 3 p.m. Eastern. We have a time for change call tonight at 9 p.m. We're going to be covering a lot of ground with this call. A lot of ground. Experience life in all possible ways, which I think we all do, pretty much. Experience life in all possible ways, good, bad, bittersweet, dark, light, summer, winter. Experience all the dualities. Don't be afraid of experience, because the more experience you have, the more mature you become. When we look deeper into ourselves, we may often find that there are many things that we assume are true in our lives. Only later down the road, do we realize they weren't that way at all. One of the things that is a cause of our own suffering is that something that once caused suffering yesterday can shift and become something that causes liberation tomorrow. So in other words, we are human beings, whether we're, Homo sapiens, 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 which means, Homo means human, sapien means hybrid. So Homo, you don't hear that term. You used to hear it more, but we really don't hear it a lot anymore. But so Homo sapien is human hybrid. And believe it or not, all of us are hybrids. So we live in a world of duality to give us a variety of different experiences. So pain is going to be one experience on the list. Yet, when we unconsciously hold on to our past pains, and cling to them like they are the entire truth of who we are, then this attachment is what creates suffering. Whenever we resist, reject, or avoid letting go of our past pains, we cannot see the possibility that worry, fear, and emotional agony are not our natural state. It's very important to comprehend this. Whenever we resist, reject, or avoid letting go of our past pains, we cannot see, or we're blinded, we cannot see the possibility that worry, fear, and emotional agony are not our natural state. Our natural state is being at ease with what is. And this easiness of this life has no suffering inside it at all. What if all pain you've experienced throughout your life was not something bad that you had to go through, yet it was an intentional lower vibrational gift to push you higher so that you grew and evolved in consciousness? What if there are no accidents or coincidences in this world? There really aren't. There really aren't accidents or coincidences in this world. And everything we experience is intentional by a greater divine plan for our spiritual awakening. Hopefully, you sit for many days or weeks with this inquiry before you and come to a final conclusion. The inquiry is here to point us inwards, where we can dive into discovering the root cause of what creates our own first place. Now, you may be thinking that there are many types of suffering that human beings have no control over, and that it's not their fault, or it's physically impossible for them not to be in a state of suffering. This is simply not true. We are the manifesting magicians and the cosmic choice makers of our moment-to-moment experience. When the greater truth is seen, it becomes crystal clear that all suffering is self-imposed. Most people in this world have forgotten their power to simply decide to have a different experience. Most people in this world have forgotten their power to simply decide to have a different experience. At any moment, we can just stop and choose to shift our perspective on the reality we are currently experiencing. It can be as easy as moving your eyes to start looking up, down, or sideways. Just start pointing your awareness in a different direction and notice what happens. However, you might feel that it's not so simple to easily climb out of a traumatic trench you've been swimming in throughout your childhood. And sure, we are creatures of habit and tend to stick close to the known experiences we are used to. Yet, we're also here to empower ourselves, which means to wake up to a new type of thinking that liberates us from the old, comfortably numb suffering that we are used to. You don't need to be a sorcerer to cast a spell over yourself by saying, "This is how I am, I can do nothing about it." Elaine. You don't need to be a sorcerer to cast a spell over yourself by saying, "This is how I am, and I can do nothing about it." I can't do anything about it. If and when you want to create an instant state of liberation from your suffering, then start with exploring, questioning, and understanding what is the source causing your suffering in the first place. Ask yourself first if your suffering is coming from something outside of your body or something inside your mind. When I look at the root cause of my personal suffering, I see that it is always caused by one of two things. It's either an attachment, okay? It's either an attachment to a positive outcome or an avoidance of a negative outcome. I think a lot of us have this. I know I do. It's either an attachment to a positive outcome or an avoidance of a negative outcome. When I am 100% aware of my mind and emotional state, 100% aware of my mind and emotional state, I'm seeing clearly that my awareness is either playing the game of attachment or avoidance to any thought or experience. When I am in pure awareness, I simply cannot suffer. I only suffer when there is resistance, avoidance, or some human experience I'm currently having. Does that sound like you too? When I let go and flow with the river of life's experiences, I do not cling to the riverbank or try to swim upstream. Because life simply carries me from one moment to the next, from the deepest valley to the highest peak, and then back down into the valley again. So as I learn how to let go, embrace, and allow for each passing experience to occur, okay? So as I learn how to let go, embrace, and allow for each passing experience to occur, I can sit back and watch how the pendulum of this life experiences will soon swing back the other way again. There are those days when, and I think this is with all of us, but there are those days when people stomp on my toes, and of course I have a few moments of great pain. Yet, I do not hold on to them. I can see that this experience will pass, unless some part of me is trying to get revenge, unable to forgive, and holding on to that past pain. Most of the suffering that people experience on a daily basis is emotional and mental anguish about perceived problems that they believe still exist. They only exist because they continue to hold on to the idea that the problem is a problem and not an opportunity for growth. They think if there is not enough money to pay the bills, then this is an external problem and not something that provokes a new creativity to sprout into your world. All the problems that you think are real are not. All the problems that you think are real are not. They are mere fabrications in your mind. The mind becomes attached to or is in avoidance of a certain experience. And instantly, the body retracts with sensations of pain. Now, when you can remain balanced in the middle between attachment and avoidance, you won't get trapped on one side or the other. You're standing on the third side of the coin, the edge, right? In between heads and tails. The now. See the perfection in the seeing, right? See the perfection in the seeming imperfection that seems to be. See the perfection in the seeming imperfection that seems to be. Lester Levinson. Now, if you do not find the middle path, discovering real peace within yourself, you will live in a state of constant tension and inner turmoil. After years of holding on to many levels of tension, the body needs to manifest it as an illness or dis-ease in order to release it. You will see this at the end of every human being's life. The psychosomatic tension builds up and finally requires a way to release itself by breaking down the physical health of the body. The psychosomatic tension builds up and finally requires a way to release itself by breaking down the physical health of the body. 21st century science, on some levels, knows that all dis-eases are rooted in some psychosomatic pattern. This means that there is always some painful past memory, negative emotion, or uncomfortable feeling that the person has not fully embraced, healed, and released internally. There are tens of thousands of documented cases around this world where people have healed themselves of every dis-ease out there by doing emotional release healing work. Perhaps it was forgiving their parents, forgiving their ex-partner, or coming to peace by forgiving themselves. With a little Google research, you will come to understand how we all have the power to heal ourselves with our minds. The soul is a slut for human experiences. It is open to having any experience on this earth. It is the mind that determines which experiences to cling to, avoid, or resist. The mind behaves much like a pendulum in that it constantly swings back and forth. It does this so that we eventually let go and find the middle ground. It wants us to equalize our highs and lows. It is trying to take all of our past pain and use it to propel us into creating some future state of bliss. When we are aware of the mind, we can relax into the body and be in a state of constant equanimity with life. The longer we can do this, the most enlightening, healing experiences begin pouring in. When we are aware that life balances on the edge of death every day, we decide to find the middle path, or the third side of the coin, the edge, and refuse to live in a perpetual state of fear, resistance, or tension. This is where we take the higher spiritual path, which simply embraces each experience as the right experience in each new moment. Why do you think our souls would choose to live in these human bodies and go through this crazy set of challenges here on earth if there wasn't a greater reason behind it all? It's good to know that on a soul level, there are no victims here. We are each playing a karmic game of catch and release with the law of attraction. Meaning, whatever experience we catch and cannot release, it will soon expand and eventually manifest into our lives. If we keep attracting the same challenging experiences and types of relationships to us, there must be some repetitive behavior or old karmic pattern deep from our past life that we are unaware of or haven't fully found peace with. with just a little introspection into ourselves, preferably being out in nature, this universe can help us unravel ourselves and uncover what our old pattern is, so as to free ourselves from this great misunderstanding. If you don't have any challenges, how would you know what freedom was like? I don't believe we would. If we didn't have any challenges, how would we know what freedom was like? Without knowing struggle and strife, we simply couldn't know what bliss, joy, or ecstasy was like. So try to be a little thankful for your suffering. This gratitude will lighten the load. The suffering people remain stuck in is because they are avoiding looking inside to see why they are choosing this experience. They believe they are a powerless, angry victim in life, and we're just dealt a bad deck of cards. And this is simply not true. We are all divine beings, connected intimately to the one indivisible God source. We are all divine beings, connected intimately to the one indivisible God source. The suffering we incur is simply an opportunity to explore the valley, so that we rise to the peak, we become conscious of life's perpetual pendulum before it swings back into the valley again. By fully embracing the agony of loss in our lives, one day we will swing into the opposite experience of great joy and liberation. Stop imagining yourself being or doing this or that, and the realization that you are the source and the heart of all will dawn on you. Nisargadatta Maharaj. No action, belief, or thought that we become attached to in this life has zero consequences. No action, belief, or thought that we become attached to in this life has zero consequences. Each movement of the pendulum causes another swing in a new direction. When we become aware enough and truly conscious of each rising thought and feeling inside of us, then we will be free from the karmic pattern and begin living as a spiritually awakened conscious being. So how can we relieve our suffering right now? It is good to know that while some suffering is easier to transcend than others, they all have one thing in common. They are based on an assumption that there is a separate thing called me or I, who is attached to and over-identifying with some thought. When we can detach from the me so that it has nothing to do with the mind or body, and see that it too is just another thought, that we've created, we can unlock ourselves from anything. The idea that this thought of me is permanent and absolutely real is another assumption. What if there really was no separate me? And you did not get identified with anything and simply merged with each passing experience. Who would be there? Who would there be to suffer? When the identification ceases with this idea of me, suffering instantly dissipates, and true freedom is known again. Since everyone is one's own self, whoever does whatever to whoever is doing it only to himself. Since everyone is one's own self, whoever does whatever to whoever is doing it only to himself. Sri Ramana Maharishi. There is nothing more powerful to practice than the awareness of who you truly are. This in itself will allow us to transcend any personal experience of suffering. The state of transcendence can be found by focusing on that which is beyond all thought. Freedom from suffering is found in the silence between our thoughts, in the pause between our breaths. We are here to discover the divine infinite soul that we are and know ourselves as unlimited spiritual beings, which will free us instantly from any state of suffering. Knowing we are eternal, formless spirit at the core, a very peaceful, expansive state is found. We can then easily step back from our thoughts and see them for what they are. They are simply thoughts. The day we do this, we've taken the first giant leap into claiming total freedom and enlightenment in this lifetime. The day on which we come to know the Supreme Consciousness within us, then the outside world will also appear to us like the expanse of the Supreme Consciousness. The whole will be a mirror to us when we become a mirror within. If we stand near a stone, then we will be able to see ourselves even in the stone. As I've said many times, for the most part, we have about 60,000 thoughts every 24 hours. So then you can see how it can get for us. No wonder we may get lost living up in our heads and have a hard time keeping track of it all. The mind is a highly activated thinking machine, and it's always presenting us these wonderful creative gifts. We can do whatever we wish with these thoughts. We can ignore them. We can welcome them in deeper, invite them to flow in stronger, store some of them away in our subconscious closet, or have fun unwrapping one delicious thought after the other, savoring each one thoroughly. The thought that places us in complete power of our lives is the one to dwell deeply. The concept which opens our minds up to this universe of new possibilities is the one which needs to be adored and cherished all day long. The thought which ignites the most awesome creative force inside of us is best to be held permanently sacred and true if we wish to manifest the most outrageous success in our life. So my invitation for everyone is to meditate upon perhaps one of the most enlightening and empowering thoughts that we will ever be tossed across the creative canvas of the mind. So the thought that I suggest you play with this week is that you are the highest authority in your life. You are the highest authority in your life. Now, this thought means that there is nobody and no thing outside of you who has more power than you. You are the creator of your destiny, and you are constantly manifesting the reality you see, smell, taste, touch, hear, and experience around you. Whatever direction and dimension you are placing your attention in each micro moment is what you are seeing, experiencing, and manifesting more of. What's amazing is that all these thoughts appear and disappear continuously out of a source of pure awareness. Everything you want or don't want is being created within this energy of awareness inside of you right now. And whatever you focus your mind upon will grow in energy and frequency. Do not strain yourself to understand all of life's mysteries at once. Accept each one as it comes and fit it into the jigsaw puzzle, knowing that bit by bit, each piece will be shown to you and will fit into place perfectly. So you become like an empty vessel, ready to be filled. Eileen Caddy. Everything in this life is multidimensional and multi-sensual. This means there are many more layers and levels to explore after we scratch the original surface. If and when you peer with an electron microscope into a drop of water, you will find layers of complex and unexplainable miniature worlds within each deeper world. The great mystery of life multiplies, deepens, and expands the further we peer down the rabbit hole. The same applies to when we meditate on the concept that we are the ultimate authority of our reality. So you take a few minutes to sit within the context of this concept and how it applies to your own life. Notice how this little exercise shifts your experience of being alive. When you initially meditate upon this idea for the first few days, You may have a variety of random responses. You may notice your mind rejecting it, denying it, trying to ignore it, or making up a dozen reasons explaining how and why you truly are not the ultimate authority of your reality. You may get caught up in old belief patterns that prove this idea to become completely wrong. Your mind may also surmise that you understand the idea completely and that there's nothing further to learn from it. You could also stop everything you're thinking and surrender yourself completely to this super potent, juicy idea, and soon discover a plethora of hidden realms and enlightening paradigms within yourself which you never knew existed. Whenever something extremely powerful is introduced into our lives, it tends to disrupt the normalcy we previously had, and we may unconsciously tend to avoid it. Be careful of avoiding this concept on any level, because it will place your life on the lower back burner, or worse, drop it into the bottom of the barrel. Whenever we start thinking that we already know everything there is to know about a particular subject, we believe it's a dead idea. And then we relate to that deadened energy within ourselves. There's always something to learn and master. Even the greatest artists work harder to reach a higher state of perfection. When we look at the word authority, we see that it has the word author in it. Right? Take off ITY and you have author. We are the ultimate authors of our lives, who are writing the script, telling the story and tale of who we are and who we are not. What is the story you most want to stop telling? What would happen if you simply stop focusing on it? When we feel into the quality of being the author of our lives story, our life story, we can seek that there's something firm, solid, and unmovable. What is the story you most want to stop telling? What would happen if you simply stopped focusing on it? When we feel into the quality of being the author of our life story, we can sense there's something firm, solid, and unmovable in it. This is because the foundation of our being is unshakable. We are the ones who are undefinable on a spiritual level, and yet on a human level, we spend our entire existence defining and labeling everything around us with words and thoughts flowing through our minds. On a scientific perspective, being the authority of your existence is proven in quantum mechanics. We now know that the basic structure of existence, atoms, electrons, quarks, etc., exists for us only when we are looking at them. Right? The moment we remove our attention, they mysteriously disappear as if they never existed at all. All quantum physicists agree that atoms, thoughts, don't actually exist in one particular location either. Meaning, if you never look at any one problem or personal issue again with your mind or imagination, never giving it any more energy, it simply disappears from your reality forever. We are truly that powerful. We are the ones who decide what atoms exist and don't have priority or precedence inside our brains. We are the sole creators of the reality in our inner worlds. We are the ultimate authority. And nobody, absolutely nobody, is higher, bigger, or more powerful than you. He who thinks he is the doer is also the sufferer. You are pure consciousness, beyond limitations, and it is reached by investigation into the I, Ramana Maharishi. Now, I'm sure we have all noticed that the rabbit hole tends to become more twisted and complex the deeper we peer into it. Being the grand masters and ultimate authorities of our realities is not actually a decision or responsibility that we can create, lose, drop, or find one day destroyed. It is our natural essence and our true inherent nature. Even when we approach the concept trying to acquire it as if it were an idea that could be kept safe like a secret treasure, then that means one day we will feel that we lost it. We cannot acquire what we actually are. Can't acquire it. Or lose connection with the source itself. We're not actually the soul, doer, here. Life is mastering itself, doing what it will through us. We can only forget and become ignorant of it by being distracted by more enticing, inviting things of this amazing world. We only need to remember that we're always the manifesting masters of our reality and simply cannot be anything else. Now, another dimension and depth to this enlightening inquiry is asking ourselves the top 10 questions we most need to ask ourselves around it. For example, if you're not the authority of your life, then who are you? Are you in love with yourself and your life? If not, why not? How are you relating with others you love in your life? What's your relationship with the idea of being empowered, conscious being? What would happen if you started interacting with everyone in your life from this reference point that you are a relaxed, self-appointed authority Are you trying to control others in your relationships, attempting to prove to yourself and them that you're the authority? What would your life be like to be free of any kind of disbelief around being the absolute creator of your reality? If you ask yourself, or when you ask yourself, why are so many people not living this radiantly alive, self-mastered existence? You may find a lifetime of questions that soon follow. We have only imagined that we are powerless and fearful. We believed in the fabrication of this lie because others we loved believed in it. We have also had entire lifetimes of victim-like karma that says we are not responsible for creating every detail of our reality. It's from these powerless spokes of our karmic wheel that cause all the suffering in our lives. Once we can digest the truth that we are the center, the source of pure consciousness itself, that knows no failure, is totally timeless, transcendent of pain, beyond space, and free from all limiting beliefs, then we discover our spiritual doorway to total freedom. When we look at how our consciousness functions, we can see that it behaves much like the hub of a wheel from which our entire life radiates out from. As we see with any wheel, if it has no center, the radius and circumference cannot exist. We are this center. And so everything must stem from us. The spokes of the wheel are our thoughts and feelings. And the totality of the sphere represents our life. If we step back from it all, we can see that the center is completely unmoving, and this is what holds the entire wheel together. While the circumstance and spokes continually move, change, spin, the center remains fixed at the core. We can see things changing around us only because our center is unmoving. If the center was moving, everything would appear to be still. We need a solid reference point or point of view to see movement in action. We are that unmoving source which does not change, and thus are always influencing that which is around us. We are fixed. You are this fixed central sun, the source of creativity, creating your life in each moment by itself. You are a purely radiant infinite energy who is inventing everything around it in all directions. You were free before you were born. Your consciousness has always been continuously creating some version of reality, whether you were aware of it or not. Think about all the amazing things you forgot throughout the journey of your life. When we can remember what is vitally important. we return to our life purpose and mission. When we are aware that we are the ultimate authority of our very moment-to-moment reality, we are spiritually awakened and have a greater ability to control and decide which direction we want this life to go. Through simply realizing we are the ultimate authority, we are free. Through simply realizing we are the ultimate authority, we are free. Otherwise, our lives act a lot like a sailboat without a keel or a rudder, and our destiny is blown across the sea by the random yet highly intelligent direction of the wind. When we know we are the ultimate authority of our reality, we don't have to prove it to anybody, and especially not to ourselves. From this self-realized perspective, we understand that we cannot lose our power. We are always already, we are the hub of the wheel, and nothing can take this away. We are the power, the core, that is manifesting whatever we desire in our lives. Never again can this be altered, and no longer are we enticed to play the victim, villain, hero, or unconscious saboteur in our relationships. Instead, we naturally become more of the self-realized creative genius who is co-designing our entire reality from a place of enthusiastic love, lightness, and joy. We are the supreme rulers of our inner world. This is our territory, where there is no more small you to be hurt or lost. You are truly free. Then you no longer have to unwillingly cross over another treacherous ocean of fear, pain, agony, separation, or lack to find that central paradise of calmness inside your heart and soul. When the ego is lost, the soul is found, and your thoughts no longer have power over you anymore. When you truly realize who or what is that force which is always ultimately creating your reality, and that you can never ever be separate from that again, then you claim your sovereign birthright to master this life in all its dimension and form. I'll join you in the meditation, and I'll return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose, and an easy and slow breath out through the mouth. Remain still. Do not let the mind get attached to what meditating should feel like, look like, or be like. Let go of all shoulds and simply be here now. This day is as it should be, just as your thoughts and feelings are as they should be right now. However, the more you can accept what's happening to you right now, the better your experience of this moment will be. Take this with you for the rest of the day into the evening and night the following morning. We will return here tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern for the Time for Change call, and tomorrow, Thursday, September 15th, 2022, 3 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call.